Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
Welcome! Hi, I'm Miss Herrick, and we are doing our first video. Today we are going to be talking about solving inequalities with multiplication and division. I'm going to go through the notes for this section, so feel free to stop it whenever you need to write anything down. You also might want to re-watch the video, so watch it all the way through, and then go back through to finish any notes that you need to. To start, we are going to do a review problem. Just see what we know, see if we remember everything. So your review problem, 6 is less than x plus 2. Okay, so this problem has addition in it. We need to do the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. So we are going to be subtracting 2. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So our 2's are going to cancel out. 6 minus 2 gives us 4, our sign, and we still have our x. So we have 4 is less than x. Now some people get a little upset that x is on the right side. So if that bothers you, you can switch this around. I would suggest reading it backwards to do that. If we look at this, we have x is greater than 4. So we're going to write it x is greater than 4, exactly how I said it. So those two answers are the exact same thing. If we were to graph it, we have our number line. We have an open circle at 4 with our arrow to the right, which is the same way as this arrow. So hopefully you understood all that, and that was your review problem to start out this section. We are going to have two different methods for multiplying and dividing inequalities. Our first method, you'll need to write down. This is our very first method here, so make sure to include this. You might want to highlight it, underline it. But first method, multiply or divide by a positive number, your inequality will remain true. Multiply or dividing by a positive number, your inequality remains true. Okay, hopefully you got that down. If you need to pause it to finish writing it down, go ahead and feel free. But we're going to do two examples with this type of problem. So, like it says, multiplying or dividing by a positive number in your inequality, so that sign in between is going to stay the same. So our very first question there, we have n divided by 3 is less than 1. So nothing different. If this was an equation, we would take the division and change it to multiplication, which is exactly what we do with inequality. So we are multiplying by 3. Nothing changed. Okay? These cancel out, and we are left with n on the left side. 1 times 3 still gives us 3 with our sign in between. Okay, so our answer, n is less than 3. If we were to graph it, we would have our graph to the side. I like to put numbers on both sides of my actual number that we're talking about. We have an open circle at 3 with our arrow to the left. Check to see how you did on that problem. And we have another division problem, but it's written a little differently. Okay, so it's written as a fraction this time. We have x divided by 5 is less than or equal to negative 3. Make sure to write this down. We're going to work through this. Okay, so this is division. We have a division problem here. So we are going to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So we're going to multiply by 5. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Okay, so our 5's cancel. We're left with x, and negative 3 times positive 5 will give us a negative 15. Since we multiplied by a multiplied by a positive number, our sign will stay the same. And you can go ahead and put your graph. Hopefully you know what to do for that. We have a closed circle since it has that equal sign underneath. And we are headed to the left again. Whoops. I messed up my numbers. Nope, this was right. Sorry. Negative 14, and this is a negative 16. My bad. Sorry about that. So, now that I got the graph right, we are going to go to our second method. So, those are your two examples. Make sure to have both of those written down and make sure to have your graphs right. Make sure those numbers are right, unlike me. Okay, second method. Okay, this is your second one that you want to write down, so make sure you write this whole method down. Method 2, multiply or divide by a negative number. The direction of your inequality is reversed. Multiply or divide by a negative number. The direction of your inequality is reversed. Okay, if you need to stop that to finish writing it down, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and go to the examples now. Okay, so we have negative 2a is greater than negative 9. Negative 2a is greater than negative 9. Let's go ahead and write that down. Hopefully you can see that this is a multiplication problem. We are multiplying negative 2 and a together, which means we need to do the opposite, which is division. We're going to divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Now what our problem says up here is if we're dividing by a negative number, our direction of our inequality changes. Well, we have a greater than sign, so that means our direction is going to change to the opposite, which is a less than sign. I went ahead and got that out of the way so I don't forget it. Okay, so since we divided by a negative number, our direction changed. So we went from a greater than to a less than sign. Now we have the easy part. Negative 2 divided by negative 2, you're left with a. Negative 9 divided by negative 2, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. We have a positive 4.5. If you would like to leave it as 9 halves, you can do that also. Okay, then you would have your graph. We have 4.5. You can have your graph a few different ways. Okay, you have an open circle, and it is going to the left. Okay, so the weird or the crazy thing about that problem was that our sign switched from a greater than to a less than, only because we divided by a negative. Okay, second problem. We have x divided by negative 3 is greater than negative 4. X divided by negative 3 is greater than negative 4. Okay, so this is a division problem, which means we are going to do the opposite. Multiply by negative 3, multiply by negative 3. Now we multiplied by a negative, so that our rule says that we need to flip our sign. So we are going to change this greater than sign again to a less than sign. I do that right away, not to forget. So greater than switch to less than. We cancel out. We are left with x. Negative times a negative, positive 12. We have our graph. And we have an open circle to the left. Okay, so the only thing that's different about the two methods is that if you are multiplying or dividing by that negative, your inequality sign switches. Okay? Now you're going to try some on your own. We have one problem here, that's it. So make sure to write this down. They worked out the problem for you. But you got to tell if it's right or wrong. So you have to decide if they did this problem right or if they did it wrong. If they did it right, then you're good. But if they did it wrong, explain what they did wrong or show what they should have done to make it right. So you have x divided by 3 is less than negative 9. That was the original problem. It looks like here they multiplied by 3. Okay, then you got to figure out if they did everything right. I'm not going to read through the rest of it, but make sure you write the rest down and then explain what you think. Yes, no, and give an explanation for either way. Thanks. Have fun.